Hello, everybody, and welcome back to U Filmmaking. This is the show where we showcase your movies and talk about what made them, how they made them special, and just what techniques you use to really showcase your films. Today, I'm joined with Daniel, my co-star, and I'm John Klaves. Daniel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. It seems like it's going to be a great day on set, and we have a lot of iconic talent coming in, so I'm excited.
I am so excited. We have 6 unique films to showcase to you guys today. We'll talk to the creators and their massive weight of talent, Pedro Pascal's new movie, and we'll get to talk about just what made these films.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'd love to start off, and we're gonna start by seeing a movie called 5 Days, a romance film created by John Lindsay. Let's go ahead and roll the trailer.
Hello, can we buy all the seats to the 5:30 showing of Lionheart?
You want to buy all of the seats?
Yes, I do, and we're gonna split that 3 ways. I'll be right back. Look, I need your help. Savannah's coming with that guy later, and I'm simply trying to intervene.
Intervene? Why?
Come on, you and I both know that she deserves better than him. Nobody knows him.
Haley, you're talking really crazy right now. They're not even gonna end up together, so why worry?
That's what me and CJ said. Look at us now.
Yo, CJ, get your girl.
Hey, I heard you try to talk her out of it, but she already made her mind up.
Please, Chris. CJ and I will pay you back.
Alright. How much for a ticket?
They're $9.09 for two.
And how many seats in the theater?
125.
You gotta be kidding me.
I wish I was.
All right, so let's welcome John Lindsay.
Okay, what's up?
John, how are you doing today?
Yeah,
It's good to have you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming into the studio today, and I'd love to just kind of dive into your film a little bit. So tell me, what inspired the story, and kind of, for the viewers who may not know, tell us a little synopsis of the story as well.
So the inspiration is actually, like, if I'm being completely honest, it was very, very last minute. We had like an hour before our senior project class.
Okay.
And I'm like, I had one idea, which was the Lionheart, but I was like, okay, I need a second idea. So I'm quickly brainstorming, and usually, like, when I was younger, I would have a crush, but I was too afraid to, approach her and
This has
ask her out.
personal weight to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a little personal story. And I was like, okay, what if this guy's too afraid to ask out his crush, and he finds out that she's leaving. So he gets that inspiration to finally go ask her out, just to, be like, hey, I did it, even though I'm not gonna be in a relationship with her, but I actually went and asked her out. So yeah.
That's really sweet. That's really sweet.
I love that, and it really seems like an authentic romance story, so you can really tell that you based it on your real experiences, and I love that. It also seems like there's quite a few comedic elements. I just want to know, like, what inspired those elements to be brought into the film?
It's usually how my close friends and I talk. We joke back and forth with each other all the time, and I felt like just having a straight romance with that sad ending was gonna be, I don't know, too emotional. So I felt like having some comedic moments, having some comedic dialogue would help elevate the film and help people get attached to these characters, like, even though there's only a short period of time to know them.
No, absolutely, I totally agree. It works.
Thank you.
Kind of like going off of that, sometimes comedy, we talked about often, is one of the toughest things to do, because you have comedic timing you're dealing with. There's the shots, the way that you do that. So what do you think were like some of the biggest challenges that you guys probably faced on set?
On set, the only challenges we had was, I guess, timing, like time-wise during the day. There was one day where we had to push back because of the rain, but it turned out it didn't rain that day. So so we wasted like a whole day. And then there was another time where the sun was going down, we just ran out of time, and we had to push that back too. But I think it all worked out in the end because the first day, Brianna, which is the main character who plays Savannah, she
kind of the bully in the film.
No.
Or the good girl?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're good.
I didn't know which one you were labeling as your main character.
The love interest is
Okay.
she couldn't be there day one, so that worked out for us. And then the day where the sun was going down, we had to push that back. That worked out because we got better takes. So I think having those challenges helped out with a better outcome of the film.
Absolutely.
I love to hear that. And so, regards to the technical aspects, what would you say are some shots that maybe were the trickiest to create, or the ones that you're most proud of in the film?
My favorite scene is the movie theater scene that you guys just watched. I used to work at that movie theater, so it was easy to get permission to film inside there because I was good friends with the managers and all that, and I knew the layout of that area, so I was able to tell Aaron, who's my DP, where to place the camera, like behind the counter, and how it would look like on the opposite side. So, and we were able to, we filmed in October, so we were able to like block out what movies are playing, except for, you can see it on the board. You can also see it on the board in the back. We couldn't block that out. But no, that part, I just feel like it was one of the best scenes in the movie.
Oh yeah, and it's cool that it was like a full circle moment for you, going back to the place that you worked at a movie theater, no less, filming your own movie.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
My manager's like, oh, I can't wait to see like John C. Lindsay when we show your movies here. And I'm like, yeah, it's one day.
That's amazing.
Instead of blocking out the other movies showing, you should have just put posters up for your own movie.
I didn't even
marketing right there, yeah.
Someone coming into the movie theater will be like, I did come for a Marvel movie, but we'll go with that one. That's awesome. Now, I'd love to kind of dive into, some of the shots that you did in the film. I know that there's a notorious scene that came into the film. Do you mind kind of like walking us through it, telling us a little bit about, what memorable stories came from making this movie?
So we go back to the movie theater scene. Oh, hold on. There is the infamous baby.
That is what we're calling it. I know. There was a short moment that even though the film was named 5 Days, it was going by the name Missing Baby.
Missing Baby. Yep. Here we go. All right. So Ashley's character, Ashley was really great. I really loved her on set. So she finds out that Dante's character is going to take her friend on a date, and she's like, no, I can't let that happen.
She's not supportive.
She's not supportive at all. Yeah. She's terrible.
This is where we come into the movie.
Yeah, I really like this. I really wanted to keep this shot where she just walks out. I really like that. So we had the baby in the background, which is her baby. She had to bring the baby on set because her husband I think he was at work or something, but he was gonna come get the baby. We didn't know where to put the baby. we wanted to keep him in.
We see him in the background right there.
Yeah.
He's the star character almost in this.
Yeah. So I actually zoomed in. I had to zoom in because in the original cut, it was zoomed out and you could see the baby was not in the carriage. So but we wanted to keep him in eye shot of Ashley because we didn't want to like cause any trouble or anything. But the reason why he's out is because he really wanted to get out. So Brianna and Dante, they were watching over him as we were filming her shots. But yeah, it's not in here. I don't think it's in here, but in the original cut, you will see that the baby just disappears. And everybody was like, oh my God, what happened to the baby? And I think the next shot, you see him back in the cradle. It was like, yeah, we just didn't know where to put him.
In the film, the female character doesn't have a baby, right?
No.
So it does still just look like there's a random
baby on set. It is just a random baby on set.
You tried to do some good parenting skills here, but then it just made like someone in the film look like a terrible parent who left their baby there.
We said the theater employees were watching over the baby while they went to the bathroom or something.
That's true. It's the side hustle that they have at the theater.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes it really just takes a village,
Yeah.
Or a movie theater, I guess.
To watch over a baby.
Well, hey, that's great to hear that iconic sequence that came from your film. Yeah. I would love to know more about your creative process. Like, what would you say is your favorite thing about your creative process creating a film like this, and your least favorite thing going into it?
The favorite thing is actually filming it. Like, just being on set with everybody, having a good time.
It seems like you really do get you
yeah,
have a good time.
like these guys are great, and I miss them. I hope I can see them again. But just having, get to know everybody and their passion. Why do you want to do filmmaking? Why do you want to do acting? And just joking around on set. That's really like the best part about it. Like no matter I worked on a couple of sets, and just every time I've always had a good time because of the people. So yeah, that's what I look forward to in filmmaking. And then the least favorite part is the pre-production. Like I think anybody can tell you that is the worst part about filmmaking, just getting all the paperwork, making sure everything's correct when you get there, making sure you have every equipment, because you will forget, and then something is always gonna go wrong, but you just gotta keep going. You can't let that stop you. It's not gonna always go your way, and it's not gonna look like the way you want it to look, but you just gotta keep going, keep pushing, so you can get this product out and get your passion out.
For sure, and it sounds like that's one of your skills, is going with the flow and adjusting for different obstacles, and you killed it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's like for school films and my own films, like I always have to go with the flow because I'm limited to what I have, limited to my skills and all that, but I just keep going with the flow because I get this project out.
And it works out for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Incredible. So you said that you're not a big fan of pre-production, which some people love it, some people don't love it. But what do you kind of see yourself doing in the future? What's next for John Lindsay?
My main passion is to become a director. It's just I've always been in the video making world. I've always wanted to get my ideas out, no matter how I did it, with either animation or actual putting the camera up. But I just want to direct. I just want to get my ideas out, and I just feel like, I don't know, it's something I've been called to do ever since I was a kid. Like I always had a camera. And you can ask my friends, I'm always recording when we're out and all that. Like just being behind the camera and just making these films is just a big passion for me. Yeah. So, yeah.
And this is your last year in school, right?
It is, yeah.
Do you know what your next steps are?
Yeah.
Going to LA, New York?
I'm trying to get a local job here first for, I don't know, maybe a couple years. And then I eventually want to move to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Maybe LA, I don't know. Not yet.
The world's your oyster.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Awesome, that's incredible. So do you kind of feel like this experience in the film has kind of made you a better filmmaker? Are there any things that you kind of took away from this that you kind of want to, share with the viewers?
I think it has, because for this, I really had to be more professional, for lack of a better term, whereas if I just hey, let's go film this with my friends, we can just, do whatever we want. But I had to actually work with these actors, work with my crew, and it was a learning experience for me to be like, okay, this is what I need to do on the next set that I'm working on. This is what I need to do beforehand, before you even get on set. So I feel like being more professional with this film is going to help me later on with the next films I work on.
Absolutely. Well, John Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful hearing about the film, hearing about the story and the technique behind it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, we will see the trailer for the next film. It is called Housewarming. It's directed by Tomasino, and he'll be joining us with his co-star, Aaron Murdoch. Let's go ahead and go to the trailer.
Unfortunately, she hasn't, sweetie.
It's just that it's 5:30, and she's usually home by now to make dinner.
She could be out extra late.
No, she's always home by 5:30 to make us dinner. She's lost a few jobs that way.
She got into an accident.
Wait, didn't you say she was...
Oh, no, please. Please, Yosef, wait, please. Yosef, please, stop. Sorry, Yosef. Just go home. Just go home.
and welcome back. Daniel, what did you think of that trailer?
That looked very intense. I'm very eager to talk to the creators and get their take on this.
Absolutely. It looked like a very powerful story. I'm excited to hear kind of what the background to it is and kind of, what drew out the story. So let's welcome our guests, Thomasino and Aaron Murdoch. All right, how are you guys doing today? Thomas, it's good to see you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as always.
And Aaron, it's good to see you as well. Thank you for
Good to
coming
see you
on.
too.
How you doing, man?
Go ahead and you guys can take a seat. Thank you so much for joining us today on our show, and we're very excited to kind of hear what the process behind creating this film was. You know, what inspired you guys? And also just for the viewers who maybe have not quite seen the full thing, tell us a little bit about what the story is about and just a little short synopsis.
So what housewarming, the main theme behind housewarming is basically, it's really about one of the worst crimes that someone could commit, in my eyes, which is kidnapping. I've always been obviously, who isn't opposed to that? But like, I've had like a particular fear with it ever since I was a kid. Like, there was this video in 5th grade of a kid getting kidnapped, and it traumatized me. So I wanted to take that crime and I wanted to like, quote unquote, justify it in some way. Like, maybe like, but okay, what it's really about is seeing a situation from all sides, which I really think is an important message in the current landscape, because we're very like divisive, and we don't really think about like the situation. We don't think about like it's hard to describe, but
almost a way where you are looking at a form to overcome maybe that fear or trauma that you've had, to kind of explore like, why do people do the things that they do in a way.
Yes, yeah.
That's incredible. So we have your co-star Aaron here. So Aaron, can you tell us a little about what your role on the set was?
Before I get into that, can I add one thing to
Absolutely.
Thomas's bit? Okay, yeah, because I think a big element as well about the story is the fact that it's, at the end of the day, it's just a big redemption arc.
Sure.
And what I love about it is Thomas took this thing that was what most people would interpret as just this irredeemable, like, once you do this, you're done. Like, there is no coming back. But somehow he managed to make it so, like, she was able to change in the end. And I really love the message that, like, there's some of these people who, like, will do the most, like, horrible, irredeemable stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like they can still change and become a better person themselves. And I love stories that do that, and where characters do a complete 180, and it feels earned and doesn't feel fabricated.
Absolutely. It almost turns housewarming into heartwarming,
Exactly.
That's incredible. So kind of tell us a little about what your role on the set was.
Yeah, so I was the DP.
Awesome.
And also editor. So, I mean, it was, I think, as far as lighting, it was a little challenging to just, like, cause if you've seen Mask, I completely forgot to submit it, like,
all right.
to be completely honest. But you see that, and like, that's kind of what me and Kyler, who helped out a ton on this set, what we kind of just want to do for lighting. We want to do really weird,
very
crazy,
bold, strong,
avant-garde kind of lighting. So it's kind of almost challenging for us to be like, no, we have to hold back and just make this lit, just like a normal house.
Yeah, it was like a total 180, because I mean, that was like my creative contribution during production. I'm like, I'm a pre-production guy through and through, like writing, producing. That's mostly my forte. But like these guys are like whizzes. They're awesome.
Yeah.
He's pretty much like just as involved and played just as big a role in the final look of the film as me.
Yeah, and one of my favorite aspects of it is I love when I get the chance to do something where I switch the aspect ratio up. Because, like, I think we saw it in this clip.
Yeah.
I wasn't watching, but I'm pretty sure you played the part where I did that.
Yeah, the chase scene.
Right, because like, and we had the perfect opportunity to do it because we got to that point where the door closes, everything goes off, and then it's just blackness. And we cut back to, oh, now we're in the 16:9 aspect ratio instead of the 2.35 by 1. And then we cut back to that in the door when the chase is over. But like, I like that element of like the suspense of like the very subtle aspect ratio change. You don't necessarily notice on your first watch, but the second time you're like, oh, there's that subtle thing. I didn't quite catch that first time. But like your brain just kind of, it just makes you feel more suspenseful, I think, but without knowing it until you like until you really pay attention for it, you know?
It's a cool, like, small technique that can, like, impact, you know, in a different, almost like a subconscious way.
Right, yeah.
It sounds like that really elevates the film too, those little details that whether you notice or not in the front of your brain, like psychologically can affect the experience overall.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that you guys were able to do that. I personally want to know where you found that child actor. He killed it. He did such a good job in those scenes.
Well, I found him.
Wait, no,
Wait,
actually,
did I? Wait,
no, you didn't.
You didn't kidnap him,
no.
right?
You found him through
Not this
me.
time.
Yeah.
Not this time.
Yeah, so I had edited.
I found him from you.
Right,
There we
right.
go. See?
Okay.
See, there we go.
Little details.
Yeah, so I had edited Caitlin's senior project, and he was in that, and I was so impressed with his acting in that I was like, oh, well, we need a kid. I actually know someone who worked with him on a previous set, which I edited, and then we were able to get in contact with him, and he was incredible.
He really was, and like
Especially like for his age.
Isn't he like going on to do?
He
was
I think
11?
He was, yeah.
I think he was 11.
He was
yeah.
like
He did
10 or
incredible.
11.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, like for his age, like he like by the time he's like an adult, like this dude is gonna be like. I mean, he was in some. I think it was like a Nike commercial or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he had to fly
He's
out
a lot
to
more
LA to
successful
do
than
it.
the rest of us.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So going over, you kind of talked about how you use different techniques to elevate the film in different ways. Is there any specific, other than, you know, the aspect ratio changing, is there a different scene or technique that you used in this film that you really would like to highlight?
One moment that I think, because like it's a very difficult thing to get like interesting lighting. I think when you're doing something that looks, your goal is to make it look so flat and so natural. But like one of our best moments, I think, was where it was the first thing that you guys saw, which is where she was like cutting onions, and the natural light happened to work out just in a way to where like the window, like the sunlight came in and kind of lit under her like chin and kind of gave her that menacing kind of aura to her.
Yeah, you saw that in the
Right.
preview.
And it still looked natural, but we were able to achieve that kind of unnerving look for her while keeping it natural lighting. So like that was one thing that I'd like to highlight as, and I just think that whole scene looked really good. The chase scene was like kind of, it was a little, we had to do so many takes for it because they're always really difficult.
Absolutely. And Thomas, we have the chase scene pulled up for here for you. Do you mind kind of going and walking us through the scene, you know, step by step, kind of what you guys did here, what made these elements really special to the story? We have it accessible on the laptop here for you.
Sure, yeah.
Awesome. So we can kind of play through it and just chat about what different things that you guys did while creating this. And Aaron, if you want to chip in,
it does
as well.
want to play.
Awesome. You can make it full screen up in the top. Just click the little green button on the top left.
Yeah, this is an Apple, so
you're all good.
I'm not entirely.
Apple powers the world. What can I say? All right. So this is the scene you guys are talking about. She's chopping the onions. You know, you wanted a very natural lighting. Is this how you envisioned it when you originally drafted the script?
Actually, surprisingly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I wanted her to be like this. I wanted you to be like establish you on the side of Yosef right here, and then you have Miss Basia, who's this foreboding kind of in the background figure who's what else would a creepy needy single mom be doing other than slicing onions really menacingly? We actually wanted to get more shots of her cutting onions, but kind of
because I don't think we don't ever go to like a close. Do we go up to a close up of the knife?
Oh yeah,
we do.
Okay.
There we go.
Nice.
And like it was a weird kind of like, I don't know whether you could necessarily call it a jump scare because it's kind of not a scare, but it kind of the way that like I remember like when we first showed it to people, like some people did jump when they saw it and they were like, oh, like you could kind of hear the cutting in between then, but then like seeing just that was like, it was just like made you be like, okay, this is a little weird. So what's going on here?
Well, it's supposed to have some form of symbolism as well to the onion to the kid, correct, right? Like almost feeling like as if she's like anticipating something with the knife of the kid possibly being injured. And that's kind of the worry that you're building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of like, I wanted to build that up as a sort of like, as kind of like a death march or like a death bell, just to sort of like warn Yosef that this woman might not be all there.
Yeah.
And it you know confirms the audience to be like, yeah, like it's just screaming to him. It's the audience screaming to him like, get out of there, man.
And I just want to know what other films maybe you took inspiration from with this, because it's a very intense concept and there's a lot of elements at play. There's a lot of unique shots. So I wonder if you pulled from any other, filmography that you've seen in the past that you really wanted to recreate or homage to.
Oddly enough, I'm mainly paying homage to John Hughes.
Okay.
A
little bit of a tone change.
I know that kind of is a little like out of pocket for a movie like this, but John Hughes is the king, was the king, rest in peace. He just made so, like, his movies were so down to earth and real, and of course, as I'm saying that, like the Ferris Bueller like running scene is playing where he jumps across. That's totally realistic. But he has this knack for just pulling emotion, and portraying real life, and that's really what I wanted to do. I didn't want like a bunch of fancy lighting. I didn't think that this story really needed something like that. It needed to be down to earth.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like it works well by just being simple stylistically, just to tell the story. And another question, how do you go about creating an empathetic character when they're not doing very empathetic things?
That is a pretty loaded question there.
Before you answer, I have a question for you, Thomas, just real quick.
Sure.
Did you take any inspiration from Vinland Saga? Because that is exactly what all of what Vinland Saga is about.
I didn't. I didn't see Vinland Saga. This is pre-Vinland Saga.
Oh yeah. Okay, all right, yeah.
I have not seen that show, but if you haven't seen Vinland Saga, watch it. Great show, Crunchyroll. Yeah, let the weebs talk.
Kind of going back to Daniel's question as well, can you tell us kind of first, how do you make an empathetic character be empathetic without doing good things, but also like what redemption arc, because Aaron touched on it earlier, what redemption arc does she kind of make later into the film that make you almost either like her or feel bad for her, despite her doing something that you described as traumatizing?
So the way that I really craft empathetic characters is I try to like sprinkle little eeny bitty,
Can you say that again?
little itty bitty hints of them, like, their personality, like their little hints that like they're not entirely gone, because that's a theme in a lot of what I write, is that no one is entirely gone. But yeah, that's my main source.
So there's different setups and payoffs that are happening that lead to like the characters' realizations or growth, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
Awesome. Well, Aaron and Thomas, thank you guys so much for joining us today and showing off your film, telling us how you made the story. We greatly appreciate you guys being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. You have a great one.
Now we are moving on to our next film. It is called True Colors. It's a story, slightly a horror story, created by Jason Jaco and Kenneth Williams. Let's go ahead and roll the trailer.
Let me know when to give it gas.
Okay.
What's wrong with you? I just wanted to see who was faster. Me or you? Oh, and look. How about that, Speed Demon? Another mile and you reach Gavin's Peak.
Wow, that was absolutely incredible. I think just the cinematography with the car, the lighting, and how he's kind of running away. I think for a moment it almost could be like a Nike ad with the lights beaming behind him. He's running, but he's also kind of running for his life. What do you think about
Oh, it's a pretty terrifying Nike ad. I would give
that? That is true.
I'm very intrigued to see what the overall story is, so I can't wait to see the full thing.
Absolutely. Well, let's invite in Kenny Williams and Jason Jaco.
Kenny, Jason,
Good to see you. Thank you for coming in today. Jason, thank you for joining us. All right, Kenny, tell us a little about your story. What's it about? Who's the characters, and why is a guy getting chased in the night by a car?
Well, it's inspired by Alfred Hitchcock. He's my favorite director. It's Psycho, which is one of my favorite films of all time.
Absolutely.
So it's just my version of it. I hope he's not rolling in his grave too much. I hope he enjoys it himself. Shouts out to you. But the story is about a young woman who's coming into her psychopathicness.
Okay.
And she's got her first little taste of blood. She wants to try it out. And her first victim is her boyfriend. So she sets up the perfect night to see if she can kill him that night, to experience what that really is.
I sure hope not to be the boyfriend.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's some wild stuff. But she reserves an Airbnb, and what she doesn't know that the Airbnb is owned by a serial killer.
Right.
And she comes face to face with him, and then she realizes that something is off about him. Something isn't right. Two serial killers kind of know what it is. If you ever seen,
Well, she's quite not a serial killer.
well, yeah, soon to be. I would say two psychopaths know what
Sure.
it is. If you ever seen Dexter, they all have that nuance where they can look at each other. Yeah, it's a sense, exactly. It's a sense about them that she's like, oh man, there's something off. So she realized this, so she kind of prepares to go to war with him because she knows he's going to come back, and she knows that he's going to try to kill him. And the serial killer actually runs into her boyfriend, hence the chase scene.
Mm-hmm. So the boyfriend is the one being chased outside of the car.
Yes,
the serial
sir.
killer is the one in the car?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Yeah. So the story is really just about, as the title suggests, True Colors. Everyone has, I wouldn't say a beast, but everyone has a dark side to them. Now, some people keep it in a cage, and other people let it run loose. And these two people let it run loose. They have no control, but they have a lot of self-control, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
The beast inside of them, they can't control it, but they can control the emotions, hence why they're able to walk through the world and with a mask on. And because of that, that mask is taken off, and they can both see each other. They're both comfortable within that realm. So that's kind of what the story is about, is knowing and not knowing who the person is sitting next to you, because you never know who, you know.
It's true. Which, speaking of people sitting next to you, we have your incredible co-star Jason here. So Jason, tell us a little about what your role was and how you played a part in this film.
So I was the DP, or cinematographer is another term for it, as well as the editor. Technically, both Kenny are executive producers because we put up front our money to make it.
That's big fact.
So we were like, woo, we can both get executive producer for it. But just straight off the bat, like, it was a blast working with Kenny again. I enjoy working with him. I think we kind of bounce off each other pretty well. And I think in regards to the inspiration of the look, because I remember we developed a whole lookbook for it, and I think we achieved it pretty well. Some inspirations were obviously Psycho, because Alfred Hitchcock. We wanted to mimic a little bit of like the older kind of fashion film, black and white.
The black and white came in.
Yeah, the black and white, and as well as the aspect ratio, which is 3 to 2.
2 3 2. I think.
Yeah, which is I think the same as the 55 mil film lens, or not lens, but the film strip that they used. Another one was The Lighthouse. Mostly that's because Kenny and I just absolutely loved it. The cinematography in that is beautiful. We did that, and then another one. Sadly, I don't think we have it here, but we had a scene where they were having a conversation. We had the camera like smack dab in the middle, and they were kind of like staring through the audience and stuff, going back and forth.
Was this in the car, or was this in the house?
This was in the house. I'm not so sure if
we have the whole short film here. While you talk about it, Kenny can kind of scrub
pull it up. Those shots were inspired by a Russian film called Come and See, which was really it's really haunting, and that's why we kind of wanted to bring it in here, because I just feel like as the audience when you're watching it, it just feels really unnerving and it's uncomfortable because it feels like they're staring right at you, but they're not, and it's kind of a weird, interesting way of shooting a conversation. So we wanted to mimic that to kind of feel, make the audience feel a little uneasy.
Definitely. It's a very cool tactic. I don't think we've seen it often in films where they're staring into your soul as the viewer, but they're technically talking to each other.
That's definitely one way to build the tension as the film goes on. And in regards to a movie like this with so much tension and suspense, I wonder how you create a balance in your characters between making them endearing, empathetic, but also tense and villainous. I wonder how you came up with that balance, or what you'd say you lie on the spectrum with that.
For this film in particular, she starts off as very bubbly and I wouldn't say immature, but just having a really good time, showing off that more innocent look. She has a more innocent look. The way she dresses, the way she looks, she seems like the girl next door kind of vibe. And then it switches as soon as she sees the killer, and the mask comes off right in the middle of that. But when you first see her, she's walking around, she's having a good time. But there are a little bit of hints of her psychopathicness when she moves the fork and how she moves and how she's so OCD with everything, And there are scenes that we wanted to put in that would show that even more, but we didn't really have a chance to shoot them, where she would put down roses, and I had it where the roses implanted like a dead body, like when you see like a first 48 or something like that. The tape goes up and they tape around the body. That's how she would have implanted her roses as a body, but you wouldn't see it until like the very end type.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Now, I know at one point in the film, I don't know if it made the final cut, but there is an actual fake dead body that you guys had at one point, correct?
It is.
There is it in the cut? Can you tell me a little bit about this scene? Because I know there was a little bit of fun that happened while doing this.
Yeah, it's really short.
It's like for maybe 3 seconds. We had a lot more footage of it, but it was just some cheap little inflatable thing that Kenny got, and it was a scene where she was gonna drag it out of the closet, the body, and
she didn't kill this body in the story, right?
No,
and this is where she realizes that the other guy is a psychopath as well.
He so happened to have a body of whoever it was he killed just in the closet in his Airbnb, and she's supposed to drag it out and find it, but the body was very bouncy.
Very bouncy.
And so as she's dragging it, it's bouncing up, and we're like, okay, that clearly doesn't look like a body, but it's there. It's a little dark, but
because in this in the final cut shot, did you have her pull it out of the closet, or does it just stay in the closet? Go ahead and play that.
She pulls it out, but we realized as she pulled it out, it bounced.
So we took it.
We had to take it out. We had to take it out.
Oh no, dead bodies don't bow.
No, at all, at all. But she acted it as the body was real, but that thing bounced up and down. It's like, well, yeah, that's a bounce head.
Maybe she's just incredibly strong.
I mean, it could be, yeah, the Incredible Hulk. You just make that body bounce like that up and down. But so we couldn't keep that in, obviously, and we shot it so well. So I think we had a Dutch angle as she was coming out, and that slow pan. It was beautiful, thanks to Jason. But we just couldn't keep it in. He was like, man, look at that body. The head is going. It's like a rap video. That thing was just going up and down, and down. So I was like, yeah, man, we got to take that off. So the best we could do is keep it in the closet. And that is, he kills a person right before she enters the house. So what happens is when she reserves the Airbnb, his company didn't notify him. So he's in the house killing people.
I'm not going to an Airbnb after this. I don't know if I could do it anymore.
So he kills a person, and then he's notified. He's like, oh, my God, man, I got to hurry up and get this thing up there and all that other extra stuff. So when she comes in, she doesn't see it. I've just been playing with this dead body because I wanted to shoot a shot where he actually dances with the body.
Oh, gosh.
But, again, I don't even think I could put that in there because,
we're not trying to get canceled.
Yeah, exactly. So I couldn't even put that in. But that would be the premise. That's what he does with bodies, that he would be dancing with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what happens. So he pushes the body in the closet. She comes in, and that's why he's kind of like standing. When you first see him, he's just standing there because he's kind of looking around to see who else is in the house because he knows that she's in there.
So how did your actors feel? Because I'm sure when you met with them, you talked to them about, like, this is my vision for the character. This is what I want them to do. Were they like, yeah, I'm on board to dance with dead bodies in my house? Or, like, kind of how did you get the cast to be in that state and also, be that character?
Winston, the guy that plays the serial killer, he was down for it. That was his.
Should we be concerned?
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, we should have been concerned the whole set. For all we know, he could have just
snapped. Yeah, actually, yeah, because he was down for it. I didn't have to convince him at all.
You're building a character where he murders people in nighttime, and you're out at this Airbnb at 2 a.m. with this guy.
Yeah, he was completely fine with it. I mean, I think what it is, it's not so much playing a killer. I think some people are just comfortable going into a dark space. That's what it really is. When you see like real celebrities, real actors, when they have to go in that dark place, they rehearse. I know Michael B. Jordan, when he did Killmonger, he wrote in a journal about all the things he felt, all of his emotions, and he just played into those emotions. And he did say it messed him up a little bit, and it can because we're not psychopaths. Yeah. At least I don't think anybody's a psychopath.
I'm not.
I mean, are you? No. Okay, so we're not psychopaths. So to put yourself in that arena, it does take a lot out of you. But you have certain people that's kind of the world they live in, that dark place. And Winston was there. So I was like, Winston, I want you to play a serial killer. Are you comfortable with that? He's like, yeah, man, I'm whatever. That's my vibe. So I said, all right, well, that's your vibe, baby. We can, it is what it is. Now, Hannah was a little different. She was a little different. This was her first time acting.
Okay. Well, I thought she did it relatively.
Yeah, and she's from Baltimore.
Baltimore.
She came all the way down here, Baltimore.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
She was really excited to be a second.
Yes. Oh no, she was an absolute champ. She came down from Baltimore, and we filmed the day she got there.
Yeah.
So
Trooper.
She may have actually enhanced it though, because the character is probably very tired in that.
Yeah, a little deranged.
Facts.
But no, she dealt with our long set, or as I call it, like our BS a little bit.
That's facts.
Because she came down from this. I forgot how long her train trip was.
7 hours.
Yeah, it was like
It's like 7 hours.
Like a 7-hour thing. She came down here, and then we started from roughly the afternoon, I think, and then all the way to like 1 in the morning.
Yeah, like 1:30.
We were 1:30 in the morning.
1:30.
So and she was getting tired, but she was an absolute trooper with that. But
and then got up early for the early shoot the next day.
yes, we had there was like insert shots, stuff like that. But
so
she was an absolute.
She's a trooper. But yeah, she was a little different. I had to work with her a little bit. I wish I could have worked with her a little more because we had to do Zoom.
Sure.
So she didn't get the relationship I would have wanted with Winston, so they could kind of play off one another.
Yeah.
But as far as her character, I think she tried her best to play two sides of a coin, because that's hard to do, especially for your first time. So I definitely
the wholesome girl at an Airbnb making dinner with her boyfriend, and a psychopath is about to murder somebody.
Exactly. So that's very hard for people to do. Even for experienced actors, that's hard to do. So for her to be able to do as much as she could, I praise her. I give her all the praise in the world because she did do the best that she could. Yeah. So yeah.
And I gotta say, I can't get enough of the cinematography. I know we already touched on it a little bit, but I'm curious personally, are you guys, in terms of pre-production, are you guys the storyboarding type? Are you guys the improvise once you get on set type? Like, where's your balance with that?
I think we did both.
It is both. I can definitely say we are not the storyboard type because both Kenny and I cannot draw.
Nope. No. Stick figures all day.
Hey, sometimes they get the job done.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it translates with us, but if it was for anyone else, they'd be like, "What is this?" You know,
these squiggles in the background supposed to represent.
Yeah. So we're more of just basic shot list as well as like lookbook. I think the lookbook was really key. You know, finding certain movie scenes and stuff like that were inspiration. So then when Kenny and I were like, hey, this scene, we knew like what to do. Like I know for the conversation where they're looking straight at the lens, we called that the Russian close-ups because that was from the Russian war film. So that was kind of like, we kind of developed like a little code almost for that. So that's probably how we go about it because since we can't draw.
And Jason, not to cut you off, since we are running shorter on time, I'd love to dive finally into the scene at the end, you know, kind of the psycho scene of the stabbing. How did you guys kind of go about making that scene? Because I know that you guys made a little contraption for how you did.
Yeah, so that was a weird one. Basically, I just took 2 boards with like a little kind of like, I don't know, a little stand, and then 2 brushes that just were like this. Like paintbrushes, just paintbrushes. Yeah. And we just kind of lobbed it up with like the fake blood, and then she would just stab the brushes or in between.
There's nobody actually under there, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So she would take the knife, and then she would stab the brushes there, and it honestly worked out pretty well. You could see there was blood right there, and it was kind of inconsistent.
Looks really
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that worked out.
It was a good transition between them two. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today and telling us about the story and how it just came to play. We appreciate you guys just coming out. But the next film that we are moving on to is called Espionage by Candlelight. It is an Emmy-nominated film created by Jared Esteban, and he'll be joined with his co-star, Michael Biehn. Let's go ahead and roll the trailer.
Saw my report. If anyone's got something to hide at Roldan Incorporated, it's gotta be. Just ask her a few questions in character, scan her prints off her wine glass, and that'll be that. Trust me. It's the most effective way to make sure she's not a threat.
By taking her out on a fake date?
Yes. By taking her out on a fake date.
Well, good evening, Marcella.
Good evening to you, Percy. I'm about to engage with the suspect.
Good. Find out who he is.
But this is strictly espionage. It just looks a little different.
And welcome back, everybody. I am holding the certificate from the Emmys nominated from, oh, it's right over here. It's fallen out. I'm so sorry, Jared. We'll get it back to you in one piece. But Daniel, what did you think of the trailer that we just saw?
It looked so fun, so lighthearted, such good action and comedy, and I think it's a little different from the last movie we talked about.
Very different.
So I'm welcoming this new pace.
I'm very excited for something to kind of cheer us up. I think we've had 2 a little bit more emotionally daunting films last. So let's go on and invite in Jared Esteban and his co-star Michael Biehn. Awesome, Jared. How are you doing today? It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Michael, thank you for coming in. All right, go ahead and take a seat, you guys. So Jared, tell us a little bit about the story. What does Espionage by Candlelight mean?
It is about 2 undercover spies from rival agencies, and while they're on the job, they think the other is suspicious without knowing what they actually are, so they decide to take each other on a date. So the whole night is them trying to blow each other's cover while staying in character.
Sure. I love it. I think it reminds me very much, I can't remember exactly what the film is. Is it called Bounty Hunters? There's a film with, it's basically 2 rival spies, and the whole time they're trying to kill each other because they're each other's contracts.
Okay.
So it reminds me slightly of that.
I've not seen that. I've seen it, people say Mr. and Mrs. Smith as well. I haven't seen that either.
That's a great comparison.
I still have to see those.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's impressive that you came up with the storyline without, seeing those movies that I know feel very heavily inspired by.
Yeah, I should see you would have thought I'd seen more spy movies before doing this, but I didn't. Honestly, I didn't.
So then, what inspired you to create a spy movie?
Well, first of all, for the script, it was a grade. First of all, it was a school assignment, final for fundamentals of production. I had just learned how to film coverage of a table scene, so that was on my mind when I was making this. Yeah. And I wanted to make something that could be filmed like a table scene, like in case I ever wanted to do it. It sounded simple, but even though everything looked normal, everything looked ordinary, like something underneath the surface was happening. And that's why I came up with the idea of, two people undercover, not what they seem, talking about things that mean something else, really.
Absolutely. I love how such a simple concept of a table scene can turn into such an amazing short film. Now, speaking of people across the table, we have Michael Beam. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what your role was and kind of how you contributed to the project?
So I was the co-producer along with Lila Haddad. Yeah, I got brought in we shot in November, got brought in for the class. I asked to be brought in as a producer, and I got lucky enough to be told yes by my professor.
It was a producing class, correct?
It was a producing class, yes. Awesome. It was.
Yeah, that was a class project as well.
It was a class project, yeah. But I'd never produced before and stuff, and so I really liked this story, and so I wanted to be a part of it, but I hadn't produced before, so I wanted some help, and so I brought Lila in to help me out. And so me and her kind of tag team the film and producing and all that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And Jared, you're the type of creator who's known for, it seems like, your comedy and your quick pace. I just want to know what it was like creating this, something that's a bit more action heavy, what it was like filming those action scenes, or like also, I don't know if you had a say in the choreograph, the fight scenes, like what was that
I did,
like?
because our actual choreographer had to step out the project. So I had to take up the role of doing the stunt choreography.
So
you choreographed before.
No.
All right.
That was my first.
Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, I would love to hear
We
that.
actually have the film out here
that's
on
right.
this computer for you. If you want to pull up the fight scene as we kind of go.
Sure. Here's when it starts.
Well, speak of the devil, we just met Kenny Williams.
Yeah, there he is right there. Man. So when doing this, how do I get rid of this?
I think you can just click on the actual screen.
Okay. So as soon as I found out that our stunt person couldn't do it anymore, I just looked up a bunch of YouTube videos.
A self-taught man, right?
Yes. I mean, I did martial arts before when I was younger as well,
Okay.
so that helped me, know kind of what people would do in a fight.
Wow, yeah, that's really cool.
And I learned when I was a kid. Had this, I don't know if anyone remembers Klutz. Klutz had this little filmmaker for children thing, and that was like when they did the techniques like placing your actors so they look like they're right next to each other, even though they're not. That's honestly where I drew my most of my just basic knowledge of how to make the punches look like they land. And
So
stuff.
that's prime for fighting, because obviously you don't want your actors actually hitting each
Yes.
other. You know?
And I was lucky. I was able to. The guy who just got kneed in the chest there. That's Josh Hodgecourt. He did drama fighting here at Regent. He helped me out a little bit with. And Brett Freitag, who gets thrown here. He's a friend of my dad's. He trains martial arts jiu-jitsu. So he kind of actually walked Bethany through the whole.
Like slamming him down.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incredible. So it almost became like a team project on choreographing this.
Yeah, because I needed actors, and I wanted people who had experience with like martial arts or just to help me out because I was working on through it too. But we spent, I think we spent like 3 days of rehearsal just going through it. Someone couldn't even be there at the same time, but through the 3 days of rehearsal, we were able to. Actually, I think in my post credits I have a shot of. Look, we have a little bit of our behind the scenes here. So this is when he was first like showing her how to flip him, and then we did the little thing. He added the elbow too.
Any injuries?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Were there any unseen injuries that you didn't know? Because
I wouldn't know.
I'm sure you would have had a great time
I really
with that
hope
paper.
not. I think we. I don't think so though. But look, you can see the. This is. You can see him. Like putting his head back. He's not actually close to him. It's just.
It's the way
the foreshortening, the focal length and everything. But yeah, that's what we did. And actually, thankfully through this, I was able to build basically a video storyboard for Sage.
Yeah.
So whenever I needed
She was your director of photography?
Yeah, sorry. Sage Thomas was our director of photography. And anytime I needed to kind of reference what kind of angle I needed, I would just show her that, just show her a clip of it, and we would just replicate it on set.
That's incredible. And you can go ahead and let the video just play in the background as we kind of chat. I'd love to kind of dive into, I know it's a comedy movie, it's kind of fun, but is there any message that you wanted to share with the audience through the film? You know, because even the funniest of films usually have something that they're telling, a story that they're telling.
Yeah, sure. I know, you know, initially it was an idea for a grade, but as I went into it, I realized that there's actually falling in love with the story as well and the characters. I realized that I could connect with myself. I'm kind of a person who sometimes, you know, upon first meeting someone or meeting someone I know might have to impress or ask a question later, I kind of put on a better version of myself, a version of myself that's made to do a specific task. It's, you know, just to meet just the best foot forward. And I think that's kind of what it's being represented in here. It's that they're on a date, which is where you're supposed to connect. It's where you're supposed to get to know the other person. But they're both completely hiding their true selves. And I think that happens a lot in human conversation in my life. So I just kind of wanted to show through this that if you risk letting the walls down and laying out your true self, then that's where real connection happens.
Absolutely.
And you might find that what you might think is your adversary across the table, someone you're trying to get something from, is actually just the kind of person you want to be around.
Absolutely. So they do end up happy together in the end.
They do end up happy with each other.
Despite them fighting each other a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. They bond, the first bond over this geeky cooking show that they both like.
Yeah.
And that's when they forget about the mission and start enjoying each other's company. And of course, they get kind of roughhoused by these drunk patrons.
Yeah.
And obviously they start combat fighting and showing who they truly are.
Do they get fired from their spy jobs after this? Because, you know, they kind of disregarded the mission for their own personal benefits.
We'll have to see.
All right, espionage too.
Yeah,
right?
well, maybe. No, I love how, like, relatable what you were saying is about, like, connecting with people and having to put on a facade. And it seems like through the action, you did a great job of having them break down their walls a bit and show their true selves, which I loved. And I just wonder, in a movie with so much action, how do you create, like, characters that are endearing or empathetic, like through dialogue or just other scenes in general?
Let's see. Not sure. I guess through dialogue, I tried to. You get to meet Jeremy first, Agent Jeremy. He's talking to his handler in the car. Can I see what he's about? I don't know. I think just through the dialogue, they're kind of hidden from the audience as well as it goes on. But it's really when they start talking about that cooking show, they realize oh my gosh, someone else likes the show that I like. It's kind of when they start to like actually smile and goof off a little bit more. That's kind of the moment I kind of wanted to show that this is what it's supposed to be like.
Yeah. No, who doesn't love when someone likes a show that you like? That's an instant
It's
bond
a
right
very
there.
basic connection, you know, that you create there of like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it's nothing crazy. Because, you know, there's so much that they could connect on there. They're both spy agents, they're both pursuing each other, but, you know, just the simple show that they enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. Like if they were not spies, they were not at the date, that would be something they would bond over.
It'd probably be one of the first things that would be mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Now, Michael Beam, I would love to kind of talk to you about on the producing side, what challenges did you guys kind of face with setting this up? Because, I mean, you have a lot of cast going there, you have a lot of fights going on. You know, one wrong move, someone's got a broken arm and you got a big bill. You know, so kind of what challenges did you guys kind of have to overcome and how did you go about that?
So I think the biggest problem that we had was our location. So I locked down the Swan Terrace, which is up at the Regent Hotel. Sure. And we were all set to shoot. I just had to go and get her to sign one last thing of paperwork. We're all good to go.
So it was the one last
always that one last thing of paperwork. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, what's it called? So I go in to ask her to sign the paperwork. She's like, "What? I don't remember who you are. We've never talked about this a day."
Is this day of
This
filming
is day
as
of
well?
filming. The crew is waiting outside.
Yeah.
I just have to get her to sign the paperwork.
Yeah,
We're
that
all
was
good to
as
go.
we were setting up for the car shot.
Yeah, as we're setting up this car shot outside, she's like, "You can't film here. I didn't say yes to any of this." But
Wow.
look,
Is talent already here? Like cast, crew, all of them already lined up?
yeah, they're shooting outside.
Yeah, we were like
We're
moments
about to
away
go-
That sounds like a nightmare.
Moments away from filming.
We didn't need to go inside, thankfully.
Producer's
but-
nightmare, absolute nightmare. Like you're sitting there, everyone's looking at you like, are we filming?
Yeah, and what I learned was I should have did all this stuff over the phone instead of doing it over email because it's all over the phone. We have no receipts of her saying, "Yeah, you can come film, no problem." And so she's like, "Nope, I'm not signing this. Leave." And so I grabbed my stuff. I walked out and I told Lila, I was like, "Hey, this just happened." I pulled her aside. "This just happened. They don't want us to film anymore." And then Lila ended up going back in and doing her lovely producer stuff.
Which we saw in the
Which we
choreographed
saw,
fight. She
yeah.
probably took him down.
Yeah. But anyway, she worked her magic, and she was able to get her to sign the paperwork. And then we filmed inside while people are eating and stuff. So we originally had like a back room, which is like this really ugly, like old back room.
Yeah.
And then we ended up getting moved to behind here, and then like the people in the background are actually just eating dinner in the restaurant while we're filming.
So she not only got you guys into film, she even got you like first class seats in there.
Yeah. Shout out to Lila.
That's incredible.
It sounds like there was a learning opportunity there.
Oh, a lot. Yeah. I learned a ton on this.
That's the best part about just going out there and making stuff. You're always learning new things. I'd love to hear like what's like a producing success for you. Like this was a little bit of a drawback. Is there like a win for you on this project?
On this project, let's see. I'm trying to think.
Well, I am holding.
I mean, we're holding.
wonderful
Yeah, we did.
Wait, I think an Emmy nomination is a little bit of a win. Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, we did get nominated. That was that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of like successes and stuff like that. Just being able to have like this project is a success in itself.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And kind of as we move to wrap this up, do you guys have any experience that you learned from this film that you would really like to share, of something that influenced your growth in your career, or something that you can kind of share to those watching to really encourage them? Maybe they're just starting out in film, or maybe they've been doing it for years now, but something that you kind of took away that you learned.
Well, this is an interesting story, but after this, I think during the summer after this, I felt really burnt out, and I think there was part of me that was like, do I want to do this anymore? 'Cause it was very tough. It's a very short turnaround. I edited this in like a month because we wanted to get in the showcase, and I was really tired. And I was like, do I even want to do this anymore? But I kept going. Professor Sinclair wanted me to submit this to the CTA, and I was like, I didn't really have faith that it would compete in like nationally.
Sure.
And at the last second, I submitted it and like forgot about it.
Top tier student timeline.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's pretty on par for us.
Everyone can relate to that.
But then we got a call that it got nominated, and kind of changed the course of that semester for sure. Yeah. But it kind of just showed me that you never know. You can't. I don't know. You're not. You can always judge it for yourself, even if you have doubts. Yeah. You can't write anything off. I think if you have nothing to lose, you should always go for it. You never know what happened. This happened to me, so.
Absolutely, that's incredible, and I think that this film just shows, the hard work really pays off. That the times that you guys spent practicing the fight over and over again and learning from that, I think that's huge. Just kind of seeing that. Michael, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, I think like for me, obviously I learned how to produce, but I also like learned how to work with like such a big crew, and to like just learning how to work with people who all have like their goal set on like we want to make the best film possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was the attitude on set.
That was the whole attitude. Everybody we want to make the best thing possible. We're just putting in like all these hours with everybody.
Yeah, even though it was a school script, it was a school project.
Yeah.
We put our all in, and
and so just kind of like learning how to go for it and throw everything else aside.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you guys both for joining us so much. It's been great hearing about the film and the creation of that. Now we're going to move on to a film called This Is What Pleases Me, That's What Pleases Me. Because It Pleases Me, thank you very much. It's a film based created by Grace Perry, and she will be joined by her co-star Lila Haddad. So let's go ahead and roll the trailer.
Down, down, down. No, 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 no. Please don't fall. Please don't fall. Désolé. C'est mon mienne. Mes amours. Mes rêves. Monde. Je m'aime en entier.
Got an issue? I got a tissue.
No! What the hell? You just punched me, death, in the face!
I've wanted to do that my whole life.
You think you're so self-righteous. You think you're justified in your actions. But let me ask you a question. Maybe those noblemen that you killed deserved it. But what about their children, their wives, their servants? All of them innocent as your children. You are no better than the king that you hate so much! Jesus!
You asked me how I got into this line of work? Want the truth? You're the reason, Death. I lost 4 husbands. Olivier, the love of my life, was executed for treason. He was loyal to the king, to France. And what did that get him? A visit from you.
All right, and welcome back. Daniel, what did you think of the trailer?
It looked so interesting. I love a good pirate story. I love a good stranded story. So I'm really intrigued to talk to the creators of this.
Absolutely. I think it's so cool. We get to see, we see this fantastic poster here of just showcasing not only like the costumes that they had on the set, but we also saw, you know, the landscapes and how they really fully committed to creating a pirate style story.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. So I would love to invite our guests in. We have Grace Perry and Lila Haddad.
Hello.
Thanks
for having us.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you
Hello.
for coming in. Grace, thank you for joining us today. So go ahead and take a seat. So would you both just first off start off by telling us, you know, what were your roles on the set and kind of, you know, what the story and a short synopsis for maybe those who haven't seen the film before?
So I was the producer of the film. I did it for my senior project class. Grace was looking for a producer for her story, and it was her thesis. So
It's incredible. So once this is completed, are you finishing up your time at school then?
Yes, I mean this actually is not my thesis.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
Part of the.
It's part of a independent study class essentially for me.
Got it.
But yes, I will be graduating.
That's incredible. So were you the one who wrote the story then?
Yes.
Awesome. Could you tell us just a little bit about, you know, what inspired you to create it? You know, who the characters are, and you know what role do they?
Yeah. So I started out with basically I'm doing 2 projects for this independent study class, and I had one, and I'm like, okay, so I've got a drama, I need a comedy, and I was like, I have no ideas, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do some research, see what it is. I'm like, I like historical fiction and wacky things, and so I was just doing research, and I was like, you know, Greek mythology is really in right now. It's very, very chic, and so I was, you know, just researching and like, okay, maybe let's find out some mythology things. Let's look at different things, and then I was like, well, I speak French, so maybe I should look at stuff for France.
That's awesome.
So you know, why not? And so I stumbled across this pirate who was born in the year 1300 from France. Her name was Jeanne de Clisson.
She's the one who you played.
Who I played in this film, yes.
That's awesome.
Or the Lioness of Brittany, as she became known. She was this fearsome pirate and terrorized the French coast for 13 years because the King of France wrongfully executed her husband. You know, just girly things. And so I was like, she's awesome. I want to do this. This sounds great. You know, she would have a great, you know, story to tell. So I was like, okay, well, what else? What happens? Like, what is going to happen in this? And I'm like, well, in the same region of France that she's from, Brittany, there's this mythological creature known as the Ankou, which is what Dayton plays in this film.
Okay.
And it's essentially a Grim Reaper type character, and there's a few different mythologies around it, but I use that as a way of, she is facing, she's encountering her past choices essentially, and seeing, this is the consequence of, being a murderer. Whether or not she wants to admit it, she is, and so she then is like faced with the fact that she's not a great person, and what does she do with that?
Sure. And later in the film, I think Lila pulls up a scene where she's almost having like a dance with the devil at this point.
Oh, yeah.
She's kind of like trying to fight off kind of her impending doom. Is Dayton's character trying to like kill her at this point and kind of like
Yes.
take her soul?
So basically, Dayton's character shows up at the beginning of this film and is like, "Hey, it's time for you to die." And then my character, Jean, is like, "No thanks, I'm good."
Yeah. So
And
does
so-
she succeed in that?
And so, I don't want to give away spoilers.
Well, we're kind of going through here in the film. We can see here.
They come to an agreement, a tenuous alliance, let's say.
Interesting. Okay.
And neither of them is fully honest with the other, and neither of them is entirely, their alliance isn't entirely truthful on either end. But for now, they've come to an agreement.
She gives them a very convincing argument.
Yes.
I loved that you kind of wrote this around your own skills and what you knew in terms of already knowing French, and you were able to do a lot of research into it. I think that's so cool. And one thing I'm wondering is about the action. Like, how did you go about choreographing? How did you go about figuring out how to shoot it?
I have a really good friend of mine who is a combat choreographer, and so I was like, "Hey, do you want to choreograph this fight for me?" It's one of them's a scythe, and the other one's a rapier, which is an absurdist thing because the rapier is actually not invented till a few hundred years later.
Okay.
If you're a sword nerd, you would know these things. It's a little Easter egg for our sword nerds out there.
That's awesome. Now, speaking of swords, this probably creates a small producer nightmare for a second because Grace comes to you, tells you about the script, and you're on board, and she's like, and then we're gonna have weapons.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about the challenges that you may have overcome on this set, kind of handling weapons, choreographed fights, things like that.
Yeah, so that did become an issue for a certain thing. We were gonna film locally originally. There's a couple beaches around here that I had considered, but every single one of them, I would talk to the people that are in charge of the residents, and they would be like, "Yeah, it's all good." And I'm like, "So there might be some clinking of swords. There might be some people in costumes," and that's when they would get kind of a little weird about it. But it was
you telling them that this is a pirate film.
Yes. They were aware.
We're bringing cannons and battleships.
Exactly. Maybe
been
that's what they
worse.
thought. Maybe they
That's
assumed.
true.
I mean, it's what I wanted. It's what my dream was.
Right. We wanted a wagon with a cannon in it,
That'd be pretty cool.
So it actually ended up working out beautifully because shout out to Michael Beam. He has a beach house. His family has a beach house in the Outer Banks.
That's my invite.
It's a beautiful beach house, and they allowed us to go film there. And because we were able to do that, we were in a very to get to the house, you had to do a 30-minute on the beach drive. You had to drive to the beach, and so not a lot of people are able to do that. So it's
Very secluded
it's a
area,
little
I'm assuming,
secluded.
yeah.
It's kind of empty, and so we really didn't have to, other than an occasional truck passing by, we really didn't have to worry about a lot of just random people on the beach. You can see in a wide shot here, it's
very
empty.
peaceful.
That we did not have to worry about too many people, and having our swords and our crew out there, it wasn't an issue. It was really nice. It
Which
worked out
the
awesome.
truck really would have probably messed up your timeline.
Yes.
Just a little bit.
Sword being a couple hundred years off is different from a modern day truck rolling.
A Ford F-150, just
It's absurd as
cruise
you
it
can do what you
through. Right.
Right.
We did have a few little, moments where a loud truck was passing by, and we had to cut the audio, and but I would say overall, it looks really pretty, just having that open,
It looks very stranded, and I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're aiming for, is to make this feeling of isolation maybe
right.
with her.
Little island somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and that was the look.
So it sounds like this is a character that's based in revenge. Like her life has been consumed by it. So I wonder how you go about creating a sort of redemption arc for her or a change in her heart.
Yeah, there's one moment later in the film that I think is really good, and basically, when my character finds out that the other character was a person at one point, was a human at one point, and knows what it is to be human, and realizes that, you know, this is a job that he has gotten, basically. She's like, okay, so what do you get out of it? And he says, a second chance for my soul. And then there's a moment where it's a full body shot of me, where it's coming up actually pretty quickly here, where you just see her take in the possibility of, of the fact that maybe there is a second chance for me. You know, maybe I don't have to continue being this, you know, vengeful, murderous pirate, you know. It's who I've been for 13 years, but there's a possibility of hope for me. There's still a chance to change. Yeah. And so it's not super explicit, but it is in there. You know? And that's kind of the idea.
I think like the beauty of filmmaking is that this is a story of a girl who's based hundreds of years ago, and yet you can create a story that, you know, is relevant to our day and age of people who are seeing this. Yeah, they may not be pirates and they might not be fighting death on the beach, but they still relate to something that's going on in her life.
You can still empathize with her, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and you do it in a comedic style as well. You know, there's touches of humor to that, in and out. Now, I would love to go on, especially because you're doing a pirate film, right? So there's a lot of artistic liberties there and a lot of unique techniques that you may have to do to create it. So is there any things that you would really like to showcase of like how did you achieve the looks? You know, you have wonderful costumes, weapons. Would you love to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. If we can, find that.
So that's his elaborate scene.
Yeah. Dayton's moment. So this cloak that Dayton is wearing, that was it began with an idea, and I'm like, okay, so I want Death to come in and seem like this big, foreboding, menacing presence, and then Dayton takes off his sunglasses, and it's just Dayton, and you're like, oh, you're not that scary. Right. Yeah. What? You know, it's like, so until he opens his mouth, you're like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And then he opens his mouth, and you're like, oh, what is this? You know. Yeah. So it's kind of that absurdist idea, that comedic idea of subverting expectations. And so originally I was like, okay, I want this like tattered cloak that's got like bones hanging off of it. And then I talked to my sister-in-law, and she's like, well, what about this? And draws this sketch. And I'm like, that's so much cooler. That's so much cooler than my idea. So let's do that. So that was many a night working on creating those bones and that cloak. And
wow.
Shout out to the art team. They really.
He has a very like Darth Vader meets Grim Reaper.
Yeah,
he's got the cool cloak sticking out with the bones hanging on him.
My favorite part is that bone collar around his neck. It's oh my gosh, it took so long to make, but it's like my favorite part of the whole thing, of all the costuming. I'm like, yes, I still have it.
Yeah, no, it's very cool.
That's awesome. Now, you did talk about you guys got to hang out on a beach house. So is there any fun stories that you guys kind of had in the behind the scenes world behind this of, you know, making the film or bloopers? Because I'm sure there was plenty of bloopers in, you know, the sword fighting and things like that.
Yeah, no, we had a crew sleepover. That was the first time I've ever done that. It was really cool. We went up the night before and, you know, driving on the beach when it's dark outside and like it's kind of spooky, but it was really cool. And
the fly chose you.
Right. It was just a really cool experience. It was a smaller team. It was maybe a crew of like 10 to 15. But we just got to all bunk in this like beautiful beach house. We woke up. We have pictures of like the sunrise when we got there. They were like, it was rising on the side that we were of the beach. And so it was just so beautiful. We were all eating breakfast at like 5 a.m. and like on the balcony looking out.
And Dayton didn't try to eat any of your souls, right?
No.
Making sure he wasn't really fully
eating himself. Yes. Yeah.
But he was still in character.
Yes. Yeah, they did like 2 hours of makeup. They did makeup for a while.
It didn't really take that long to do makeup, I don't think.
As the AD, it was like, oh my gosh, it's taken so long. It felt longer than it was, yeah.
AD, like 20 minutes feels like an hour.
Right, yeah. But it was a very cool experience. It was something that we had not done before. And again, shout out to the Beams. It was all, you know, done through what they were able to give us in terms of resources. So it was really cool.
It was a blessing to have that gifted to us.
Yeah, we had lunch at a different beach house.
Yeah.
It was like a
Wow.
friend of the Beams. They were like,
This
hey.
more was almost a vacation.
It kinda was. Yeah, there was a house like closer to where we were actually filming the spot. And so they were like, yeah, you can use our house for lunch. And so we actually were able to go up in the kitchen and eat the crew lunch with a sink and a trash can. Like it was very nice.
It's good to have fun when you're on set, especially when you're working in a comedy. You know, you want people to be enjoying their time. You know, having a lighthearted mentality when you're there.
And it was we shot it all in one day.
Yeah.
Like 7-8 hours because we wanted to make sure it was before sundown.
I think we started at like actually filming at like 10-ish.
Yeah.
And went till about 4:35.
So the entire thing was shot in that amount of time. So props to Nolan Leonard for ADing that.
The accomplishment.
Yes. And so I think it was nice to have that really nice lunch because it was such a rush time and we're all being blown by the beach wind the entire day. It was very tiring and I'm sure these guys really liked to have a moment to.
Yeah. The scene right before we took our lunch break was like it took us a few more takes than we normally would have wanted to because we were just like so dead at that point. We were like,
yeah. The beach takes it out of you. You'd be surprised.
That's true.
You know?
On top of a movie set and then the beach, it's like it's too much.
Right, but it was a really cool experience.
Absolutely. Now, as we look to kind of wrap up, we have a couple seconds left. Do you guys kind of want to share just one little piece of advice, maybe in one word that you took away from this film set that you would like to share?
That's a good question. You want to start?
If at all possible, don't have to do all the things. Have a good team of people to help you out because it's stressful when you're like, I have to get this costume done. It's tomorrow and I just still have to make sure I know my lines, So
delegating, right?
Having a good team is really important. I'm very thankful for the team I did have.
And bouncing off of that, like having those connections, like we could not have made this without Michael Beam.
Yeah.
And so, being connected with people and having good friends and helping each other out, it really it can make and break in this industry. It's really helpful.
I love that,
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'm very glad that we got to kind of dive into a more in-depth view of how the film was created and the fun adventures that you guys had on it. So we're going to move on to our next film. We will still have Lila joining us for the next, and we will also have Jared Reagan, who is the writer for the film called The Night Shift. So let's go ahead and roll.
Jason, hold up!
Yes.
Drew called out sick, and now I've got nobody for the night shift. You're gonna have to stay.
Look, Rick, I'd love to help out, but me and my girl, we got plans tonight, and...
I wasn't asking, Jason.
But this will be like...
If you want to keep this job, I suggest you put more effort into it. That can start tonight. Oh, you're gonna hit me? Come on, right here. See what good that does you.
I wouldn't dare, sir.
That's what I thought. Get comfy.
That was incredible. I'm thrilled to see it. I love just the look of like the discount store. I don't know what's about it. I think the fluorescent lighting. Daniel, what do you think?
Oh no, it was really interesting, and their performances had me so intrigued and so engaged. So I'm really excited to see, behind the creative mind of this film.
I almost felt like I was just like directly watching of what it looks like to be in a discount store all the time. Like the boss who's way too into it.
Yeah.
And then like the worker who could care less about being.
Exactly.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we have Lila still joining us here, but we will now introduce and bring in the writer, Jared Reagan.
Hey, what's going on?
Awesome. Jared, how are you today?
Good
to have you. Good to have you.
Yeah, good to be here. Good to be here.
All right, so I'd love to just start off. What inspired this story? You know, what came to you that you wanted to create a story about this guy?
Well, funny enough, I actually work on the night shift now.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you from the discount store?
No,
Okay.
Thank God, no. It's a great store and everything. People who own it are really nice. But yeah, I work at the airport for one of the bigger airlines, and there's a multitude of people that come in and out of the store. Yeah. Not store, sorry. The airport, who I deal with on a daily basis. You know, range from the chill people to the angry people to the very weird people.
Yeah.
Which
You're
is
gonna
what I
get a lot of
wanted.
that at an airport for sure.
Yeah,
You're gonna see a lot of
for
different
sure.
characters.
Which is what I wanted to encapsulate with this film.
Absolutely. I love how it's not only a story about this character, but it's a story about you. You know, I love that. And Lila, would you like to tell us a bit about what your role was on the set and kind of what you did with it?
Yeah, so I read Jared's script, and he was looking for someone to direct it. He was more interested in producing the film, and so I read it. And when we were reading it in class, like we were all laughing. Like it was really fun, and I was like, this could be such a good film. So he was looking for a director, and I got brought on, and I had a really good time. We had a very diverse cast, and so it was very fun to, you know, meet every person and try to get to know them well and see how they can implement the characters. We had some really cool actors, and I think you can really see it in the film.
Yeah. I'd love to just jump in with probably one of the biggest questions behind this. Jared, how did you take, you know, your personal experience and your story, translate it to Lila, and then Lila, how did you kind of take that and translate it to the characters to give us the film that we have?
I mean, the translation on my end really just came through through writing it itself, just going over the script. Because I mean, everything that I've experienced, I've kind of talked about it amongst the crew and everything, how everything goes at work. So yeah, the translation really came through just going over the script and, you know, tweaking it a bit to kind of fit the look that we were going for, the tone that we were going for. So yeah.
So then, Lila, how did you kind of take that?
So I've never been on the night shift, but just I think what comes natural to being a filmmaker is all-nighters. Doing editing all night, filming into the, you know, for this set we filmed into 2, 3 a.m. for a couple of
yeah,
it was genuinely the night shift. So I think I could kind of feed on that experience that I have, just pulling those all-nighters and, you know, grinding it out. I've had a couple bosses before that were very similar to our Rick friend, so I could kind of draw on that experience and just, you know, that emotion you feel when your boss kind of just gives you that order and you have to take it and, you know, run with it and accept it. And so I think he made very relatable characters.
Yeah.
So even though I've never been in daily discounts at 2 a.m., I could kind of feed off the characters and, you know, their energies, and the actors also really brought it out too.
Yeah.
So.
Was this like therapy for you to write? Because you're taking all these experiences, maybe unpleasant experiences, and you were able to turn it into something like.
Yeah.
What is that like?
So I would say yes. There's a lot of things that, you know, as you know, working at the airport for, you know, in customer service, you can't do, can't really say, and that translated out into the film here. We actually have. I'll actually show you one of my favorite parts, and probably. Wait, hang on. Is it gonna go? Okay, cool. It's when we meet the Karen, right? But I think let's go here. All right, so we'll start it from here.
So, yeah, you can just kind of tell us what's going on here.
Yeah, so, I mean, at this point, she's trying to get the deal for the lamp. He's saying that it's not the price that she wants. So she gets upset, calls him stupid, and now that he's on his, she wants to see the manager. Karen's want to see the manager.
2 a.m. probably at the start.
Yeah, 2 a.m.
So they're on their way.
Totally here.
They're on their way out to what she thinks is the manager's office, but. You know, as he starts to walk, he opens the door here. And it's to the outside, but she's too oblivious to see it. So,
caught up in her rage.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can't quite do that at the airport.
No, can't quite do that. There's a lot of people that I've come across that I would really like to do that. But yeah, I would say it's definitely a therapeutic thing for me.
You kind of got to live out your dream of what you would do.
Yes.
And I think anyone in the service industry could understand, like, could relate to that, which is so cool.
Yeah, I got to do service with a smile, but sometimes on the inside you just feel like,
You just want to lock him out of the building.
Yeah, walk out of the building.
So when creating this, what were any challenges that you guys kind of felt like you had to overcome? Because obviously, Lila, you mentioned, you know, it's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You're tired. You're kind of burned out at that point. Kind of what do you guys have to overcome to be able to create the film?
I'm honestly just, you know, just getting over like the fact that we're going to be in like really late at night.
Yeah.
Because, you know, along with the night shift, you know, you start, the hours start to drag on, and you start to feel, you definitely start to feel like the time taking a toll on you. But I feel like just the time at night that we were at, it was something to get over.
And it was also a very busy week for some of us.
Oh.
We just watched, because it pleases me, I was filming that the next day.
Wow.
Or driving to the OBX the next day after shooting this. So it was a very hectic week. And I think in terms of the creative for this, it was a fairly long script. We had 2 nights to film the whole thing.
Yeah.
So.
How many pages was your script in total?
I think
like 5 or 6?
Yeah.
All right.
Or maybe
a
7.
Little, maybe a little longer. I felt like it was a little longer.
Yeah, maybe.
But in terms of the shot list, we had a lot of shots.
Yes,
there was just a lot of stuff we had to cover in a short amount of time. We had to run 2 cameras to get all the shots in time.
Wow.
And so that definitely helped. But just, you know, the time constraint, the time of the week, like just where it ended up being the filming dates, it was rough for all of us.
Yeah.
But we had a really cool crew. We kept the spirits high. We played some music, you know, 2 a.m. We had the whole store to ourselves, so we could just kind of blast it and have fun. And it was a really cool time.
Love that.
And we actually had to start filming at when we actually had people like coming in. Like we started filming before the store closed, so we had people kind of coming in. And looking around the store while we were trying to film.
Yeah.
So that was one thing.
Forgot about that.
But after that, it was pretty straightforward.
Say standardly a discount store isn't open at 2 a.m. I don't think many discount stores are confident enough to have a night shift. But
If we had gone to like 7-Eleven, that would have been very interesting.
yeah. True, because you would probably have people interject themselves into your film that are the perfect character. But
Exactly.
Maybe a little sketchy. Maybe
a little bit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so going into the like pre-production of it, did you envision like a color palette or certain shots, or like when you're directing actors, like what were you picturing for the overall aesthetic?
Yeah, so Sage Thomas was our DP, and her and I worked, as you pointed out earlier, we really wanted this like blue discount store fluorescent look. We wanted like really bright colors. We had a lookbook. There was another film that was just like identical to what we wanted. So we got a lot of their shots, and we just wanted the more neon, you know, fluorescent. That was kind of the look we were going for, and I think it does come across.
Comes across fantastic.
Yeah, that was kind of
has a
the
feel
look
to
that
it.
we were going for, and I think it was really cool to see it. Sage did a lot of research into how to make skin tones still look good in that fluorescent light, and like how to make it look real, but you know, creatively just emphasized.
It's
you
a
know?
difficult balance, it seems, like to get it just right.
We
You
didn't
guys
want
did
all
it.
of our people to look green and blue.
Right,
you know, we
yeah.
wanted their skin tones to pop while also having that cool fluorescent.
Yeah, it gives that very like late night, like, I don't know, when I see this cool blue color, I just imagine like me sitting on my phone at 2 in the morning, like, what am I doing with my life? You know, and it kind of, the film gives that same feeling because he's kind of like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah, there's no like daylight. We never really show many windows. Like you're just in there with the fluorescents all night. It's miserable. And that's what we were shooting for.
Now, I would absolutely love to talk about the characters here because not only do you have probably some of the most recognizable personality traits in our life. You know, we're seeing right now on the screen, we have kind of like, it reminds me of, is it Zootopia? With the sloth,
Yes.
where like just
Yes, we did draw
does
that.
not does not progress. Like you feel like you're trapped, and like he's at the store, so he can't go anywhere. Then you have the Karen, and then later we have the burglar. Did I miss anybody?
Those are the 3 main, other than the boss.
The boss. Yeah. So tell me about kind of like how did creating these characters come to life? You know, kind of on screen, and then you know, how was it directing them? You know, was it difficult creating a caring personality, or directing the old man who probably took like 45 minutes to film? You know, kind of how did this film come to life?
Just developing the characters in general. It wasn't truly that hard because I've had like I said, I deal with people all the time, and I notice all those personalities, and that's what I essentially pulled from. I've had multiple experiences with customers who, like I said, range from like just chill with everything to angry with everything, and who honestly just want to see the manager.
Yeah, I would be angry too though if I was shopping at 2 in the morning at a discount store.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I was able to kind of draw. They were very well written characters, and I think they had certain comedic, not stereotypes to them, but like they had certain characteristics that I could draw from, just from like cartoons, from like so many different things that I could kind of bring and give to the actor to play out. And so I think, you know, they were very well-rounded characters. You know, they could play to their strengths, and I think it was very cool to see it reflected on the big screen.
That's awesome.
And with a very like linear story, you know, we have these main 3 or 4 interactions. I just want to know, like, how are you able to create sort of like an arc or like an overall theme that branch these little segments together?
Mm-hmm. I think we did struggle with that part. We were
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to end it, like, because you're just watch him go throughout his night, and you're like, how do you end this?
Right.
So I think the robbery at the end and this little heart-to-heart that he has with the robber, he actually ends up like offering him a job because he doesn't want to work the night shift anymore. So it really comes full circle. Like he's like, okay, I don't want to do this ever again. Here, you know, if you want a place to work to make some honest, good money, come and work here so that you can, you know, take over the night shift. And so I think that's where the arc kind of happens.
Yeah.
He kind of, you know, all night, the main character, he's been, you know, going through it, dealing with a lot of people. And so here you finally see him kind of have his heart-to-heart and have a moment where he can be like, you know, I was put here for a purpose. Me and this robber just had a little moment. I'm going to help, you know, better this man and his future. And so I think that's where you see his character kind of come out of that. I hate being here. I'm so miserable. To there's purpose.
I love how we just saw you having pirates fight on the beach, and now you have people fighting in the store.
I
I'm
love
seeing
fighting.
this trend
There's a
that
theme
you
with your
love.
work.
Espionage, like,
You love
I
people
love
being
me a
thrown
fight
over
scene.
shoulders, things like that. Awesome. I'd love to kind of dive into more of a deeper question of what your guys' futures look like, you know, because both of you are graduating this year, and you're moving on from film school. Where do you guys kind of see yourself in the future, and kind of how do you see that this film in particular has helped you grow in your career?
In terms of future, I've always had aspirations to kind of own my own like production company. So working towards that, you know, still trying to, you know, work on ideas, you know, and trying to, you know, involve myself in stuff that pertains to what we're trying to do here. In regards to how the film helped us grow, it definitely helped me to work more with a team, because the idea came into my head and then I have a vision for it, but you know, I have to let my own inhibitions go so that I can, you know, then work with the team to make this a film that we're all proud of, not just for me.
Yeah, and I think the film is something that you guys should be proud of. It's something that both image-wise looks gorgeous, but also it tells a fun story of this guy, but it has that heart-to-heart moment at the end of, you know, reaching out to other people, helping other people, even in a job that maybe you don't enjoy being in.
Right. I think the film kind of helped me out trying to decide what I want to do, because previous to this, I've really only directed one thing in my time here at film school. And I really enjoyed that, but I had kind of like fully set myself, I do not want to direct, I just want to AD, I want to produce, I want to do so many other things. But doing this kind of, I had a really good time with it. And I was like, you know what, maybe I need to reconsider directing, reconsider storytelling.
You should.
Story writing. Yeah, I've enjoyed it in the past. And so it kind of broke me free of that mindset. And so now I'm like trying to make another film where I've written and directed it. This summer I'm going to try to make something. And so it kind of opened up my eyes to, you know, what I can do still. I don't have to be hard set on an idea.
Absolutely.
So it was really cool for that.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you both for coming out and joining us and sharing, you know, the elements behind the story and just the fun laughs that we've had. I want to thank everybody for coming out and watching today's episode of Are You Filmmaking? Next week, we will be coming back and visiting documentaries. So make sure that you tune in for that. And thank you to all of our wonderful students who came by, sharing their stories, sharing their films. We'll see you next time.